It's 3 a.m. You are wide awake, staring at the ceiling, calculating exactly how many hours of sleep you can still get if you fall back asleep right this second. We have all been there. We spend billions of dollars on memory foam mattresses, sleep tracking rings, and melatonin gummies just to force our bodies into a perfect, unbroken 8-hour sleep. And when we inevitably wake up in the middle of the night, we panic. We think our brains are broken. We think we have a terrible sleep disorder. But what if I told you that your body isn't malfunctioning at all? What if that annoying 3 a.m. wake-up is actually a brilliant, ancient survival mechanism hardwired into your DNA? The truth is, the uninterrupted 8-hour sleep is a massive modern lie. If you traveled back in time to the Ice Age, our prehistoric ancestors would look at your sleeping habits and think that you are the one doing it completely wrong. Since we were little children, we have been aggressively conditioned by doctors, teachers, and modern sleep gurus to believe in the holy grail of human rest, the continuous, unbroken 8-hour sleep. We are constantly taught that a biologically normal human being is supposed to go to bed around 10 p.m., close their eyes, and remain in a state of total, uninterrupted unconsciousness until the sun comes up at 6 a.m. It sounds perfectly logical and healthy to our modern brains. Because this standard is pushed so heavily, we naturally assume that this is exactly how human beings have always slept since the dawn of time. If you try to imagine a prehistoric hunter-gatherer living in a rocky cave 15,000 years ago, what does their nighttime routine look like in your head? Thanks to modern assumptions, you probably picture a hairy caveman sitting by a dying campfire. As soon as the sun goes down and the wilderness gets dark, he simply lies down on a comfortable pile of warm animal skins, shuts his eyes, and sleeps like an absolute rock for 8 straight hours. We automatically project our modern, idealized factory schedule sleep cycle onto our ancient ancestors. We assume that a long, unbroken block of sleep is the fundamental default setting of the human biological operating system. Furthermore, we assume that waking up in the middle of the dark night is a modern glitch caused by our stressful lifestyles. If a prehistoric human woke up at 2 a.m., we assume it must have been because they were being hunted by a hungry saber-toothed tiger, or because they were freezing in the bitter Ice Age winter. We firmly believe that under perfect natural conditions, without the anxiety of modern jobs, city traffic, or the glaring blue light of smartphones, ancient humans would naturally sleep in one massive, peaceful 8-hour block. But anthropologists, historians, and sleep scientists have uncovered a completely different reality. The idea of the continuous 8-hour sleep is a fabricated modern myth. It is simply not our natural biological rhythm. If you look closely at historical records and the daily habits of modern hunter-gatherer tribes who still live completely without artificial electricity today, you will discover something mind-blowing. Forcing yourself to sleep for 8 hours straight is actually an incredibly unnatural and relatively new behavior. The 8-hour sleep is not a product of human evolution at all. Imagine living in a world without artificial light bulbs. During the winter months of the Ice Age, the sun would set early, plunging the prehistoric world into total, inescapable darkness for up to 12 hours. Without smartphones, televisions, or bright overhead lights to trick the brain into thinking it was daytime, ancient humans had to surrender to the dark. But the human body is simply not designed to remain unconscious for 12 hours straight. How did they survive these endlessly long nights? They evolved a brilliant biological rhythm known as Biphasic Sleep, a sleep cycle divided into 2 distinct phases. When the sun disappeared, prehistoric hunter-gatherers would gather around the warmth of the campfire and drift off to sleep. This initial period of rest was historically known as the first sleep. It usually lasted for about 3 to 4 hours, providing the deepest, most physically restorative stages of rest to heal their exhausted bodies. But then, right in the absolute dead of the night, something fascinating happened. They woke up. They didn't wake up screaming in panic, and they weren't suffering from prehistoric insomnia. This midnight awakening was entirely natural, peaceful, and biologically expected. For about 1 to 2 hours in the middle of the dark night, the tribe would experience a collective state of quiet wakefulness. This midnight window was incredibly important for human survival and social bonding. Tribe members would use this time to add fresh wood to the dying campfire, keeping freezing temperatures and hungry Ice Age predators away. It was a time of ultimate tranquility, People would chat quietly in the dark, tell stories, tend to infants, or engage in intimacy. Biologically, the human brain releases a massive surge of prolactin during this midnight waking period, a hormone that drastically reduces stress and promotes profound relaxation. After an hour or two of this relaxed midnight activity, their bodies would naturally cool down and they would feel tired once again. They would comfortably lie back down on their animal skins and easily drift off into their second sleep, or morning sleep, which carried them through until the sun rose. This beautifully balanced, two-part sleeping pattern was not just a weird Stone Age habit, it was the standard way that all human beings across the globe slept for hundreds of thousands of years. So if waking up in the middle of the night is a perfectly natural biological function, who stole our midnight peace? Who convinced the entire modern world that the ancient first sleep and second sleep were actually a frustrating medical disorder called insomnia? To find the true culprit, we have to look away from human biology and look directly at the Industrial Revolution. For hundreds of thousands of years, human behavior and rest were strictly dictated by the sun. But in the late 19th century, everything changed dramatically with the invention of artificial lighting and the aggressive rise of factory capitalism. Suddenly, wealthy factory owners realized that darkness no longer meant that profitable work had to stop. With the introduction of bright gas lamps and eventually glowing electric light bulbs, giant factories could operate successfully around the clock. The dark night was finally conquered. But there was one major biological problem: the human factory workers. The ancient, deeply relaxed biphasic sleep cycle was highly inefficient for the new, fast-paced capitalist machine. Factory owners could not afford to have their laborers working a shift, going to sleep, waking up at midnight for a 2-hour relaxing chat, and then going back to sleep. They desperately needed a strict, uninterrupted labor force that could work for 10 to 14 hours straight on the assembly line. To maximize daily economic productivity, human rest had to be completely compressed. The natural, luxurious 12-hour window of nighttime rest was forcefully squeezed into a single, highly efficient 8-hour block. The concept of the unbroken 8-hour sleep was not invented by brilliant doctors, evolutionary biologists, or health experts. It was meticulously engineered by industrial management. The modern societal message was overwhelmingly clear. You have exactly 8 hours to quickly recharge your physical batteries, and you must spend the rest of your waking day being economically productive. Over a few short generations, the modern world became fully illuminated. Streetlights, bright indoor house lighting, and eventually, the glowing blue light of television and smartphone screens extended the daytime artificially. Because we started going to bed much later in the evening, that beautiful, restorative midnight window of wakefulness was completely erased from our global culture. We completely forgot that the first sleep ever existed. Today, when you wake up at 3 in the morning and panic, you are not experiencing a biological malfunction. You are simply a prehistoric human waking up for your natural midnight rest, feeling deeply stressed because you are trapped in an industrial timeline that completely ignores your DNA. The supreme irony of the modern sleep industry is that we are constantly medicating ourselves to cure a disease that does not actually exist. We swallow synthetic melatonin gummies, wear expensive sleep tracking rings, and aggressively drug ourselves with heavy sleeping pills just to forcefully override a natural biological rhythm that kept our ancestors alive for hundreds of thousands of years. We are desperately trying to fix a completely healthy, unbroken machine. The next time your eyes snap open at 3 in the morning, do not panic. Do not reach for your smartphone to stare at the glowing blue screen. Just smile, knowing that your prehistoric DNA is simply checking in to make sure the campfire is still burning and the saber-toothed tigers are kept at bay. Now, a very quick but important medical disclaimer. If you are genuinely suffering from severe, chronic insomnia that negatively ruins your daily life, please do seek professional medical advice. Understanding prehistoric sleep patterns is incredibly fascinating, but you still live in the modern world, and your brain still needs a sufficient total amount of rest to function. Do not use this video as an excuse to only sleep 3 hours a night and scroll through social media until sunrise. If you love discovering the hidden truth about our ancient sleep cycles, hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-blowing history myths busted. Let us know in the comments below. Do you naturally wake up at 3 a.m.? Keep wondering, keep learning, and as always, stay simply ancient.